Hey everyone, welcome back. We're gonna take a look at the Bramma today. Now, I thought people already knew this, but apparently seems a lot of people forgot or just never noticed. I've had quite a lot of people tell me about Bramma and how shooting the floor in front of enemies can proc headshot arcanes and mods more easily, or that it was difficult to always find walls behind enemies to shoot to blow it up at head level. Neither of these methods were really reliable enough to be useful. Well, yes, galvanized scope most of the time doesn't have much use on a Bramma. Primary deadhead is a nice pipe dream if you can get it to proc, because a buff that lasts 24 seconds instead of 4 seconds per stack like Merciless, and each stack expiring independently would be really nice. But there are uses for this, and there are ways to do it. I'll also show you when it's useful and what type of builds it's best for. So this is it. You know those headshot proc Bramma builds that have been flying around? What if I told you the Bramma has an alt fire? Yeah? I doubt most of you ever noticed that, right? When the Bramma was first released, a couple people pointed this out, but there really wasn't a practical use for it back then. What does it do? Well, it basically acts like a glaive. If you alt fire the Bramma shot while it's in flight, it will instantly detonate. So you basically have a glaive on a stick, shot by a bow. A faster glaive with more range, basically. You know how the meta for glaives is always to chuck above enemies so it doesn't get blocked with trying to hit as many enemies as possible? And that how headshots by making the head the first point of contact from the explosion? Well, the Bramma can work the exact same way. You literally just shoot above the enemies' heads and alt fire when it passes over them. Instant free headshots. Any trash mobs, when built for raw damage instead of /COT, will get one shot. You're probably going to kill multiple enemies this way. This gives you free primary deadhead stacks and each one lasts 24 seconds. Sure, you give up the plus 100% ammo max, but you know what? Deadhead increases headshot damage, so this will also proc galvanized scope. Now begs the question, what type of missions would you actually run a primary deadhead galvanized scope build on instead of primary merciless point strike? Well, primary merciless and point strike is all purpose. You can take it into shorter steel path missions, endurance steel path, and any type of build in general. But primary deadhead galvanized scope will let you build for those sweet red crit Bramma builds. This one is mostly just for fun, and you don't see them that often. Since galvanized scope and deadhead require headshot kills, DOTs don't count. So you will build for raw corrosive crit instead of viral / hunter munitions. Corrosive crit has poor scaling, meaning this is only really applicable for shorter steel path missions, but the biggest thing is a single aerial detonation above heads will give you 5 stacks of galvanized scope for 12 seconds. Some of you might think this requires too much effort, but it's literally just shoot above heads to aerial det with the alt fire every once in a while, and you'll be able to keep up those red crits. So what would this Bramma build look like? First things first, we are still sticking with a toxin innate Bramma. Well, it's pretty simple, just a small tweak from our typical corrosive Bramma build. Instead of slotting heavy caliber, we just slot galvanized scope. Sometimes people will slot vial acceleration to shoot Bramma faster, which lets you use critical delay to offset the fire rate penalty and pushes Bramma to 105% crit chance. The rest of the build is pretty much the same. Stormbringer alone combines with innate toxin to make corrosive. Primed Firestorm to extend the range out to 13.78 meters, which is more than any glaive. The double crit mods because, well, the whole point of this build is red crits galore. I'm not saying this is the best possible Bramma build DPS wise, but it's just another fun setup. If you must have your red crits, this is the way to go. In fact, this build itself reaches 199.5% critical chance when fully stacked, meaning you will only see orange crits or higher. Our Bane is our flex slot. If you don't want to run it, take heavy caliber instead. Technically, the highest DPS setup with this playstyle would run both heavy caliber and the Bane and dropping point strike, but hey, red crits. Vigilante supplies is extremely important for recovering arrows. It also serves as a catalyst for the Vigilante set bonus. Deadhead is our choice this time since we need to kill with the shot itself and not statuses to proc galvanized scope. So Deadhead is a perfect fit for this because it gives us 30% extra headshot damage while still giving us 360% extra base damage and a 24-second timer per stack instead of 4 seconds like Merciless. Do keep in mind though that you need to hit arrows directly in the head to proc Deadhead, so if you want the benefit of galvanized scope but you don't want to hit heads, just stick with Merciless instead. Granted, galvanized scope still only has a 12 seconds timer before it fully expires, but that's just the price of red crits. If you're looking specifically to shit on acolytes, just drop the Bane and run heavy caliber. You will instantly one-shot them with these forced reds on a pure corrosive crit setup. If you're looking for an anti-Corpus setup, well, you can just drop Stormbringer so it's pure toxin and loadout instead. Throw on heavy caliber, I guess? The only thing I will say is this build is unsuitable for endurance because it relies on your main shot actually being milled to kill Frauder upfront to sustain galvanized scope. And also, if you want to go for, say, a viral hunter munition setup instead, you would also stick to Merciless and no galvanized scope because now you're killing with slash DOTs instead of upfront damage, which will not activate galvanized scope or primary deadhead. For your frame build, bring whatever mods and helmet you want. I would strongly recommend Arcane Acceleration to improve the draw rate of your Bramma. And if you opt for a Combat Discipline Arcane Avenger setup for the second slot, your Bramma will now have 245 critical chance and also still be buffed by the Vigilante set bonus, meaning you will see more red crits than even orange. And you can still run ability and helmet buffs to improve the killing capacity further. I'll just leave the rest of this video with Steel Path footage of the Galvanized Scope Corrosive build. A picture is worth 1,000 words, they say, so seeing it in action is probably the only way I can convince you and truly show the satisfaction of cruising through a Steel Path mission with all those red crits. The only caveat, you need to be aiming if you want to see those red crits everywhere. But like I said, that's just the price to pay. This means now you do have a red crit Bramma on literally every single frame, on every single loadout. What do you think? If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or, better yet, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible, like I've done with covering the Sisters of Parvos and Plaguestar updates. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. I'm also preparing to get you the info first once new war info drops. You don't want to miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.